I was doing some yard work today and I needed to fire up the old Ferguson, so I thought I'd bring you guys along. It's been in a lot of videos kind of as a prop for different, you know, welding the rim. I did a log splitter with it. I did a bunch of the wood chipper I did a video on, but I don't think I've ever done a video just on it, so I thought we'd do a cold start video and show you a little bit around a 70-year-old tractor. This is a Harry Ferguson TO30. On the back, I mean, it's modern enough to accept all this 3-point setup is the same thing on modern tractors. PTO, these things, I bought it just to run some implements, and that's what a lot of them are used to run on farms still today. Brush hogs are one of the main things people use them for. They're still useful in that sense. This is the I did a video on repairing this whole rim. It was completely rusted out, hasn't lost air. Can't even tell I did a repair on it. All that was just completely rusted out and completely gone. Turned out nice. Anyway, these came with Continental engines. I think the Fords came with Continental engines of this era. It was just you just put on a different brand engine than Continental was making engines, so all the tractor suppliers, that's what they used. I think it's 29-30 horsepower, something like that. It was upgraded from a 6-volt system to a 12-volt Chevy alternator. Other than just the alternator and 12-volt battery, nothing else has been upgraded. It runs off the standard 6-volt starter. Everything else is 6-volt, but it doesn't mind it, I guess. The Marvel Schreiber carburetor, I think I rebuilt when I first got it. I think I rebuilt it one other time. That's the oil filter. It takes cartridge type, so you just have to take that off and you take a cartridge out. That's old school technology, but now it's brand new technology with BMW and stuff like that. I do have a hood for it, tucked away somewhere. I think it's but it doesn't really fit on very good with this thing. You can kind of wedge it in there. I just leave it off because you can't really flip it up to fill up the gas tank. They did cut a hole, but I just leave it off. It came with a Skyline something loader. Probably when it was new or really close to new, somebody put this loader on. It's really nice because it's not actually a trip bucket. It actually has a hydraulic ram that tilts it. Most of the ones of this era, this was revolutionary to have something like this. Most of the ones of this era actually just had a latch, so you would put the bucket down and it would latch it in, say, this position. You'd be able to lift it up. Then you'd actually pull a rope and it would let go of the catch and the bucket would just kind of fall, it would trip bucket. This one actually is hydraulically ran, but the main rams that lift up the arms, they have no down pressure. They're just single acting, so they pump up, but you can't actually force the bucket down so low that it lifts up the front of the tractor like you can on modern stuff. Oil bath air filter, kind of neat. What do we got back here? You got your seat and everything, pretty standard stuff. This is your lift. Check your fluid. That's how fast you want it to go. The choke is right under here. This is your shift lever for your different gears. We'll go over to the other side. On the other side down here, you have your PTO engage, disengage back here. This is a brake pedal to do each side. There's one over there as well, so you can brake either side. This is your clutch pedal. Just works like a standard clutch. And then we have, this is just a stud to step on right up here. Get you up around here. And right here we have kind of a rare, kind of sought after add-on, and that's a Sherman transmission. So this gives you a high and low and standard. So essentially triple all your speeds, all your running speeds and all your PTO speeds. You can triple them. So you can make this thing grunt way lower than it could have even at the factory and make it go way faster. So this thing will get up to, I think I've taken it up to about 30 miles per hour just on pavement. Here we have a standard 6-volt starter, 6-volt coil, points and condenser and everything else. Got a little 4-cylinder engine, big old fat fan belt and fan and water pump, and there's really not much to this. It's about as basic as it can get. I have not started it in about 6 months. I just probably poured some leaded gasoline in there. So let's open up the fuel. I'll fill up the little glass fuel bowl. Kind of see it running. and we can give this thing a cold start. I'll show you. This is for the bucket lift and stuff like that. And you gotta love farmer ingenuity. We just got a Pepsi can covering the so debris don't get into the hydraulic tank. But it works, so I haven't changed it in the 10 years I've owned it. Of course, most of the gauges don't work. I think this one was a temperature that does not work. This one, it was an aftermarket volt gauge somebody put on. The oil pressure gauge does work, about all you need, the oil pressure gauge. So the throttle, we just put it about halfway. That's good enough. We got to pull the choke, and there used to be a key here, but it's since just been a switch, and there's a little light that goes out once the alternator starts charging. It's part of the adding a 12-volt alternator system, but to start it, it's kind of unique. You'll notice a 1 first gear, second gear, there's a 3, 4, there's an R down here for reverse, and there's an S for start. To eliminate the problem of actually starting the tractor in gear and driving over somebody, or what they have done is you actually bring it up and you actually move it into that and into the S position, and pushing the shifter lever up there actually engages the starter, pushes a little button, engages the starter. I don't know if maybe we can see it from the outside. There's just our starter switch, and it looks almost like when you take it out, it's almost just like a plunger switch, almost like a high beam switch on a car, and all it does is join those two contacts right there. You can also just jam a screwdriver in there if you wanted, but that will start it. So let's give it a cold start. Switch on. I'm holding out the choke. I kind of have to hold it out, it doesn't really want to stay anymore. Bring it over. 3, 2, 1, take one. Now to start the PTO spinning, what I'm going to do is first I want to make sure it's not going to raise up, because it actually needs to be spinning the PTO. This lifts up your 3-point attachment, this lever right here, but it only lifts when the PTO is spinning. Kind of a design flaw, something you want to find on a modern tractor. So I got to make sure this is all the way down so it's not going to lift. I'm going to depress the clutch right here. Then I can engage my PTO. A chipper is a nice thing. I took a huge pile of branches and turned them into one garbage can. And one of the drawbacks to an old tractor is a few little things. And one of them is enabled to lift your 3-point, your attachment, the PTO shaft needs to be spinning. So it has to be engaged. So I come over here and I can adjust it and start lifting it up. I push it back and it'll start lifting it. But the whole time I have to have that PTO spinning. one thing I do to make it always start, and that is to drain all the fuel. I don't use ethanol fuel at all. This one I actually put leaded fuel in. I actually put lead substitute because it's so old. But I don't put any ethanol fuel in it. And every single time I run it till it dies. And I can start it a year later. I can start it a month later. I can start it 6 months later. And it just cranks right up every single time. That's all you got to do. No gas. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the little walk around of my old tired tractor. I don't know if you can see the hydraulic rams dropping right now. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.